Hey there, everyone. This screencast is going to help you understand a little bit more about what a literature review is, how you create one, and what is their purpose. Like, why do folks write literature reviews, and why are we doing this in this class? We'll start first with what they are, what a literature review is. And it's an overview of what researchers have had to say about a particular topic. So, in my discipline, I'm in rhetoric and writing studies. A lot of folks talk about what's the best way to teach writing or to assess writing, and then within that there are a bunch of little smaller conversations about is this are like portfolios the best way to assess writing or something like that. So you could create a literature review that's about portfolio assessments. I use literature reviews anytime that I'm teaching something new, or if I want to learn something about a topic that I don't know all that much about. It kind of gives you an introduction to a discipline. So folks write literature reviews all the time to help other researchers understand here's what the conversation has been like in a particular topic. So I'm going to give you an example of a literature review, and this is what I'm going to show you is a literature review that I wrote in preparation to write a textbook. So here it is. Hold on one second. All right, this document is a literature review, more or less, of what folks have had to say about basic writing. So like developmental writers, people that need a little help in order to get ready for first year writing courses. Here we have, at Shawnee State, we have English 96. So I was working with other folks in California to write a textbook on basic writing. And we wanted to kind of get an understanding of like, what have folks said about basic writing in the research. So I looked at a bunch of articles, and over, I think this was a couple summers ago, I wrote this literature review. And it more or less does what I'm expecting you all to do for your own literature reviews. And I'll kind of just go through each of the different parts of the literature review. We'll start with an introduction. And your paper is much shorter than mine. You're writing 1,000-word literature review, so your introduction should be pretty short. It should definitely not be more than one paragraph. And what the introduction does, it kind of just says, these are the different kinds of sources that I looked at. These were the basic trends that I found in the research, and I'll talk about the trends here in just a little bit. You're more or less summarizing what it is you found, and what you're doing, or what you're going to be doing in the literature review. And that's kind of what I do here. I had a lot more research to take a look at. I had a lot more trends to discuss. So my introduction is going to be a fair bit longer. Yours really should just be a paragraph at most. And maybe not even all that long of a paragraph. So what is the meat of a literature review? It's the trends that you found in the research. And so I've got one trend here. It's about the politics of basic writing. And I go through and I find all these different researchers that have talked about some of the political issues involved with basic writing, and I think it's organized chronologically. Like in the 1970s, this was happening, 80s, this was happening, that kind of thing. And then after those criticisms, like the next trend that I found is like, all right, now that we've had all those criticisms of basic writing, how have people responded? And that's what this section is about. How have people structured their basic writing programs? And that's what that trend is about. How have people thought about social justice in basic writing? So there's different trends that I found in the research, and I kind of organize the sections of my literature review around those trends. What this means for your own paper is your individual paragraphs are trends that you find in the research. So one trend, let's say like you're in nursing and you're doing a project about healthcare costs and its impact on nurses. Maybe emotional impact is something that a lot of folks in the research have talked about. You have one paragraph that's about emotional impact, and then you go on to another trend from there. So these individual sections, for you, they would be paragraphs. They're about a specific trend that you found in the research. And if I could make a suggestion, like organization is something to kind of think about, like how do you organize your literature review? I would say you think about what are the most important trends for your paper, for the documented argument that you're going to write, the final paper in the class. What's been the most important trend that you found in the research it's going to help you with that documented argument. Maybe that's the first trend that you talk about, and then the second most important trend, the third most important trend. Or if you're kind of following, a debate that's gone over a few decades, and there was like at the early stages of the debate, there was this conversation. Maybe you set it up chronologically, so by time. You'll want some kind of way to organize your thoughts in a literature review. Most important to least important might be a way to go. The beginning conversations to the where we are now, that might be another way to go. You only have 1,000 words, so be choosy. If you're writing about a bunch of stuff that really doesn't matter for your documented argument, that will matter when it comes to your grade, because I want to make sure that you're actually doing useful research that's going to help you out with a documented argument. So that's the body of the documented argument. The conclusion, what I did for my conclusion here, is kind of what you'll need to do for your conclusion. Write about what this mattered, why this matters for your documented argument. How has it impacted what you've thought about this particular issue going into writing a documented argument. And that's kind of what I did. Like I thought about, program structure. How does what I learned about program structure, basic writing programs, what does that mean for writing a textbook? And I did that with all these other issues that I found. Okay, so the meat of the paper is identifying the trends, and that's what I want to talk to you all about next. So hold on one second. Okay, when I teach this class face-to-face, I do this activity that turns out to be super helpful to students to understand how to identify trends in the research that they do. For your paper, you'll need to find scholarly academic sources about your topic. For this exercise, this practice, and this example that I'm going to show you, I'm using newspaper articles from the area. So it's a little bit different. You'll need to find more scholarly academic research for this practice thing. We'll just kind of work with these newspapers. What I do in my class is I print these out for all the students. It's about 10 pages worth of articles about cancer rates in Scioto County and in the region. When I moved here from southern New Mexico, and New Mexico has problems with cancer as well. I mean, that's where they did a lot of testing of nuclear bombs and things like that back in the day. But the cancer rates that we have here in southern Ohio and northeastern Kentucky, they are some of the highest in the country. And that's something that I've always been kind of concerned about and kind of curious about. So I just found a few, I think 3 or 4 different articles about cancer rates in the area. And so I'll print these out for students, and I'll have them skim them really quickly. Because when you're kind of reading to put together a literature review, you're not reading in you're not analyzing the articles. You're trying to understand, all right, what are they really trying to get across to me? And for your literature review, you're trying to understand what are the trends, what are the commonalities between the articles that you have here? How can you develop trends that you can then write a paragraph about? So one trend that I identified was people were trying to figure out what the causes were of the higher cancer rates in this area. This little paragraph here, EPA blames emissions in buses, trains, and car exhausts for poor air quality. This Dr. Chang, who's from SOMC, but he says that the bigger problem may be what residents are doing to themselves, like exercise, lifestyle, kind of stuff like that. This earlier article that I was skimming through really quickly, there's this part here. 95% of the potentially cancer-causing pollutants in the worst area of Scioto County is attributed to coke ovens. That's what they use to make steel and iron. And there used to be a coke plant over by where Walmart is currently out in New Boston. So that's a trend. This federal study is saying, hey, coke ovens are one of the main causes. And in this other one, EPA says something is a main cause. This Dr. Chang says something else is the main cause. That gives you 3 different things to kind of write about and to think about in a paragraph. And there's 2 other articles here, and even within these articles, there's a bunch of other statements about causes. So maybe you can even break those causes down into what's in the area, like what physically is in the area that might be causing cancer, or what lifestyle choices do people make that might be causing cancer. So you can even break down that bigger trend into smaller trends to develop paragraphs around. This tends to set some light bulbs go off when folks kind of do this exercise, because they're able to find, yeah, there are these different trends, like even who are they citing? in these studies. Like area doctors might be one, maybe federal studies might be another, and that might even be a trend, like different ways that people kind of do research about these topics. Some of you are going to come across quantitative research articles where people are doing surveys to understand a particular phenomena. You can maybe have one grouping as, here's what the quantitative research has done or had to say about this topic. Whatever trends, whatever similarities you can find between the articles, that's where you can identify trends. And you want to, again, think about what are the most important trends for your topic. Okay, so kind of wrapping up. Talked a little bit about trends. I've talked a little bit about what a literature review is and why people write them. I provided an example literature review on the Unit 2 webpage on Blackboard. There's two other things that I want to say about the literature review and your annotated bibliography before I sign off. One is the quality of sources that you're looking at. If you've kind of been in the habit of just using Google to find a source that might kind of be in the ballpark, you're going to want to kind of rethink that a little bit. That's why I was kind of a stickler in the first week about finding journal articles, academic journal articles in your discipline and using that A to Z list of research databases. If you don't know how to do that, you really do need to figure that out, because you need to use academic research in your discipline for the annotated bibliography and literature review. When I'm responding next week, or this upcoming week, to your annotated bibliography entries, I'll be letting you know whether or not I think that they're academic or scholarly or not. So it's my assumption that you kind of know what that is already. And if you have any questions, email me. If you've got an article that you're taking a look at and you're not sure, where it would fall, email me. I'd be happy to give you feedback. But I will tell you that you cannot include something in your literature review and your annotated bibliography if I don't think it's scholarly or academic. So make sure you reach out to me if you have any questions about that. Also, the last thing I'm going to say is in your literature review and annotated bibliography, you should be using a citation style that is used regularly in your discipline. So if you're just used to using MLA because it's easier to figure out than some, and you're somebody that's going into the sciences, you're going to want to rethink that, and I'll ask that you rethink that. Most people that are going into nursing, if you're going into physical therapy, health sciences, most of those folks use APA. If you're going into the hard sciences, each discipline, like chemistry has their own, geology has their own. If you're going into engineering or plastics, IEEE is sometimes used, but I would be able to settle for APA. If you're not sure, make sure you email me and let me know. So that's it for now. I hope this gives you a useful overview of what literature reviews are. Sorry it's such a long video, but that's it for now. Again, questions, email me.